Satellites?
A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.
Satellite haiku. I'm Milo.
Oh, I'm Shawn. My machine just here just said reducing noise. I think my claps were too aggressive.
Oh shit.
I hope it isn't reducing noise too much.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it sounds good to me. Yeah. So satellite haiku. What's anything hot on your plate to think about?
Well, I thought we could talk about Minnesota just for a bit. I don't want to be political, the whole time. I think
Right.
there's plenty of people talking about that stuff, but I guess I had a sort of a moment of clarity. It feels like, even though it feels a little bit like I resist this thought because of my general aversion to conspiracy type thinking.
Mhm.
But I've said before, like, and you've commented on this too, like the Trump administration is behaving as if, I mean, they've been doing this since the beginning. They've been doing things that aren't smart in the sense of, like, if you wanted to get reelected and you wanted to build a coalition and you wanted to, like appeal to voters, enough voters to get reelected, you wouldn't do a lot of the things they're doing, right? Like they're just doing things that seem to be politically costly, that are ideologically motivated, but politically costly, right? Like we talked about how with some of the recent stuff going on, the killing of Preddy and Good, Renee Good, that like the smart sort of political move would have been to kind of throw those guys under the bus and say, like they went over the line, they were like to just not double down on defend those guys, not call the victims domestic terrorists, right? Like none of that is playing well. It's not helping them politically, right? Like not to be cynical and political, but like you would think that at the very minimum they would want to be smart politically, and so like there's one side of me that wonders, are they just dumb and ideological and living in their own sort of like autocrat bubble where they can't really, like this happens in autocratic type regimes, they don't really have a good feedback loop, right? Like they have yes men all around them and they don't necessarily understand what reality is, what's really going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could be one explanation why they are just so single-minded and ideological and undeviating from this sort of like seemingly insane but also politically costly set of stuff. Like Greenland is not popular, like that whole thing is insane, right? Like there's so many things they're doing that are just insane. Tariffs, they're costing people money, that they're raising the cost of living, like things that people voted to get to have, things that motivated people to vote against Biden, they're making worse, right? Like all of this stuff. So you wonder, like, do they just suck at this stuff and they're going to get just swamped? Like they just trust that their MAGA diehards are going to be with them no matter what, and there'll be enough of them, and so they're just dumb, and they may, or and it may cost them in the election. Or the conspiracy side of me goes, well, the reason why they're behaving as if there won't be an election is that they are really, really working toward making sure there won't be an election. Like I don't like to do the 4D chess business and all that. Like Trump is, but it is true. Like, remember when Elon Musk said sometime in the campaign, he was like, hey, if we lose, we're going to jail. Like he was like, right? And Bannon has said that kind of thing, right? Like it is true that losing an election at this point, especially to the extent that they've just like totally invested in illegality, like unconstitutional stuff, and like
War
it would
crimes.
it would be catastrophic for them to lose an election. Like it would be catastrophic for their whole program, political program, right? But it would also be personally catastrophic, personally hugely costly for individuals, certain individuals, one would hope, right? Like they would be held accountable on some level, right? So they literally can't lose. Like they know it would be dumb, it would be naive to imagine that they don't see that they don't understand how catastrophic, how existentially catastrophic and costly it would be for them to lose an election. So they can't lose an election.
I'm going to just push back on, play the devil's advocate for just a second. Like, and I'm going to go use an analogy. So I remember when my oldest daughter was in the Waldorf school system, Rudolf Steiner system, and she got to first grade. And the first grade teacher was explaining to us at a parent meeting, this is the stage, I guess it's 7 or 6 or something, where children are experimenting with lying. Like they've been told like you don't lie, or maybe you're a Christian and you have the 10 Commandments, but they just want to sort of see. So this kid would walk up to the desk and he would take the teacher's red pencil and hold it behind his back. And the teacher would be like, give me back my pencil. He'd be like, what pencil? And he'd be like, the one that you just took that's behind your back. And the kid would be like, I didn't do that. Like they want to see how far they can push it and get away with it, right?
Yeah.
From a child's. If we go back to 2020, there were no repercussions. I mean, some people went to jail for storming the Capitol and hitting policemen, but they got pardoned. So I don't think at this point they see that losing an election is that dangerous a thing, because they lost that one and none of the conspirators went to jail. No one was held accountable.
So I think that's totally fair. So I go back and forth between kind of seeing it that way. Like they are just reckless basically. And sort of like understandably optimistic, I guess you could say. Like understandably feeling, they understandably feel sort of insulated and from consequences because they haven't suffered any, right?
Yeah.
So like that makes a lot of sense. But on the other hand, I guess the other side of me goes, all right, if you just put aside like the actual killings of Renee Good and Preddy, it was Alex, right? Yeah, Alex Preddy. And you just look at the kind of the campaign of brutality that's gone on in Minneapolis, right? The level of like coordinated brutality, right? Like, and then I kind of pair that in my head with Trump over and over again, repeatedly now, probably a dozen times, kind of floating the idea of the Insurrection Act out there. Well, like I could do it, presidents have done it, it would be a big thing, but I could do it, right? Like maybe I'll need to do it, right? Trump has a habit of kind of telling you ahead of time what he's thinking. Like he was talking about Greenland 8 years ago,
2019,
right?
yeah.
He has a habit of kind of saying what is in his head and what his plan is in a way, right?
He's been talking about tariffs for like 32 years. It's crazy. Right. Like he thinks that that's the answer to everything.
I mean, there's things he feels strongly about, but there's things that he's kind of, that are just like, that he seems to be floating out there almost like as a PR, his natural PR instincts. Like, I want to see what the reaction is if I say Insurrection Act. Are like people going to freak out? Like what's the receptiveness to that idea, right? Like that's his marketer side. And so there's part of me that goes, all right, he is a naturally talented PR guy and marketer. Like of all his, that is probably his only true talent. And so I kind of pair that with the brutality and the sort of the campaign of propaganda and lies, where you have this very consistent and seemingly coordinated rhetoric around domestic terrorists and the radical left and the radical left terrorists, and right, like it seems to me that they are trying to create, like, it's this sort of the conspiracy side of me looks at all that and goes, it looks like they are trying to create a picture of unrest that they can feel, that they, that they can feel justified in putting down, like crushing, and that they want what would work in their favor. Like when I play it out and I say, how would they get to a point where they could kind of like cancel elections? Like how, so the Insurrection Act would be a piece of that for sure. It would have to happen. But not just the Insurrection Act. That's not an automatic trigger for canceling elections. You have to have like basically martial law at that point, right? And the only way you could get to martial law is to have enough unrest that there are enough people in the country that are sort of like calling for martial law or at least permitting it, right? So when you think of like the optics that they would want to create to get there, they would want to create basically a narrative and a picture of of such out of control unrest, widespread out of control unrest, where like Trump could argue that he has no choice but to implement invoke the Insurrection Act and implement martial law and cancel elections, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think, like looking at the way the public has responded and how unpopular this is, and cell phones and all that, they can't control the narrative well enough to get there, I don't think. And I don't think there's enough Americans on board that would ever get on board with the idea that martial law is acceptable. I think that's what they need, though. I think that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping for why would you terrorize the whole city of Minneapolis to the degree that they are? Like stopping people, ripping people out of their cars, citizens, everyone, because it's super unpopular, but it causes I think what they want is the reaction, is the escalation that they could then say, oh, look how out of control the left is. We need to do this. I don't think that they will get there. I don't think it's going to work, but it feels like that's their only viable path to not having elections. And it feels like they are doing the things you would do to get there.
Yeah, I'm gonna sort of devil's advocate that and say, so you kept using the word they. I feel like it's so. We've both worked in the corporate world, and we've both worked on teams that were trying to like achieve some kind of campaign or something, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember how hard it was to like get everyone on board and actually execute?
But they don't need everyone. They have you listen to Vance, you listen to Miller, you listen to Kristi Noem, you listen to Greg Bovino, you listen to Stephen Miller, and you listen to Tom Homan, right? All you need is Tom Homan to tell Greg Bovino to tell his men to do what they're doing. But okay, to be brutal. They're not saying there's not beyond be brutal. There's not a coordinated thing. There's not like a huge conspiracy like with this huge plan. It's just, hey, be as brutal as you can be. We want a reaction. We want a big reaction.
Right. Okay, so here's my point: is that like, for instance, even that description that sort of snow chain or what do you call that? The flow chart there.
Yeah.
What I've read was that what's his name, Floyd, the head of CPB, and Homan were sidelined because
Bovino.
Because they put Bovino in charge of Minneapolis, which was a huge like upgrade. Like he's like a low level. He's California dude.
But now they've pulled him back a little bit.
A lot. I mean, he's basically going to retire. He you know where he's from? He's from El Centro, California. He's like
I'm hearing different things. Like they're going to move him to a different city. They're going to.
Yeah.
It feels very much like a very like they had to do something because they didn't I think that like the killings changed the game. Like the two murders changed the game for sure.
And that was an own fault. That was an own goal.
But you could imagine how it escalates to that. It's not like these guys were not given orders to kill civilians, to kill protesters. But if their general order was be brutal, we want a reaction, like up to and including killing somebody if you think you can kind of justify it. Like you could see these guys trying so hard to justify it after the fact and lying so much and being very consistent and purposeful about their lies, right? Like it didn't work, right? It went the other direction. And so to me, it feels like the brutalization of Minneapolis has not stopped and barely even slowed. Like it's barely even changed since the killings, right? Like they may have said, all right, we're going to throw Bovino under the bus. The plan continues. The brutalization of that city continues full force, right? Like it's barely a tactical retreat.
But the cracks in the conspiracy, sort of this idea that there's a they, I think Trump is out in left field and falls asleep most of the time. And there's some.
I don't think Trump cares. Trump cares about being popular.
Yep.
But you look at who is behind Vance, and it's this very, very.
Well, Stephen Miller and Vance hate each other, and there's a power.
I don't care about Stephen Miller's just a racist, but there's a whole Vance wing of the party that is really about authoritarian power. Right, and Curtis Yarvin and that whole Peter Thiel, all the people sort of like who who've put Vance forward as their guy.
Yeah.
And so like there's this sort of alliance between Vance and Miller to the extent that Miller's just a racist and he wants brown people out of the country. That his motivations are super simple. So. But to the extent that there's a they, again, I don't think this is like the moon landing is fake type of conspiracy where you'd have to have this huge cover up and all these people telling lies or flat earth, right? Like that's crazy. Or 9/11 is an inside job. But the idea that you have a handful of people who understand that they can't lose an election, right? Like they can't have an election that they would lose. It seems naive not to think that they know that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I would have thought that in 2020, and nothing.
Yeah, but they've doubled down. They've quadrupled down. On stuff since then.
But I also think that like that Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, where he says to Marlowe, like, do you think my methods are unsound? And Marlowe's like, forgive me, sir, but I see no method at all. I think that it's a little bit of more of a clown car show than you're describing. Like I think, for instance, just watching what happened where Petty was shot and Vance immediately said domestic terrorist, and he was he was there to massacre people, and Bovino
they all said that.
They all said the same thing.
Yeah.
And then they realized, holy shit,
it wasn't working.
The orange Cheeto doesn't like this because it's making us look bad. How do we get out of it?
But like again, like if you just listen to that rhetoric and you say, why would you just so aggressively push that narrative so quickly? Because you need the reaction, right? Like you need the public perception that there are these domestic terrorists that need to be put down. Now, obviously, there was so much cell phone footage that it just was impossible for them to sell that narrative, right? But like they tried really hard. And why would they try really hard to sell that particular narrative that consistently with the language they used was pretty consistent, right? All those people.
Let me go back to that idea. Like if we were on this corporate team and we were trying to achieve this goal that you're describing, I would not sleep well at night, and I would be very nervous that, if you come for the king, you better kill him. Because to me, it feels like there's so many things that can go wrong with that kind of takeover.
Right, but what are their choices?
It's interesting. What I think is interesting is that there was this crazy mashy coalition of racists and Christian nationalists and people that put him in power this time.
Yeah.
Like we haven't heard about 2025 in a long time, and have you heard a single thing about abortion?
No.
Like you don't hear
really.
any,
yeah.
You know why? I think that, is it called prednisone? What's the stuff called? The
abortion pill.
Yeah, the abortion pill changed.
Mifepristone or something like that.
Mifepristone. Yeah. What's crazy about that is you can like order it and take it at home and you don't even have to tell anyone,
Yeah.
And like that whole kind of idea that like we should make the election about abortion, and then like now that he won and they got all their judges and fucking, Clarence Thomas.
Well, they definitely had that's how they got the evangelical vote, right? But immigration was their main campaign promise the whole time.
Yeah, it's true. I personally,
deportation, I mean, yeah.
My point is like, it's scary and I don't know what's going to happen. But I also, if I put my head on or step into their shoes, I would fucking not want to go to work, because I just would feel like the guy at the top is a fucking imbecile.
Yeah,
and everyone's stabbing each other in the back.
They're so invested at this point. Like you look at the Congress and the GOP Congress and how to what extent they've completely just abdicated any level of power that they have. Like they've pretty much canceled themselves as a body, as a branch of government.
Let's watch, because the two guys that shot Preddy immediately lawyered up and are not speaking. And you fucking know.
Yeah.
When
But
John Eastman came to
I
Trump and
definitely
asked for a
think
pardon.
the Preddy and Good killings and the response, like, it wasn't it was a miscalculation.
Yeah.
Like,
And they didn't go far enough, I think.
And so I think they realized that was a miscalculation. It didn't work the way they hoped it would work. Right? Like, they didn't get the response to those killings that they wanted, and they really tried hard to get, which was to pin the domestic terrorist label on the two victims and all that. But they really tried hard. And so, I don't know. I kind of think that, and when I say they, it's like a handful of people that were very consistently saying, specific things very publicly.
Yeah.
All the right-wing, pundits on all the panel shows, all of that. They were all saying it. Like, it was fairly consistent and coordinated, and it didn't work. And it was a miscalculation. But what it has caused is a very, it's not a big retreat. It's not a change. It's like they threw a couple guys under a bus, and they needed to do something, and then the campaign continues, right? So I don't know. I mean, I guess I just kind of think
think of it this way, like you've got like poker chips, and you're going to go all in and try to win the game, right? And of course, like, we can look and say Italy, Spain, Germany, Indonesia, like all these authoritarian dictatorships that rose up and came to an end and fell, like, they were nasty and they were hard to stop, and a lot of blood was lost, and it could happen here. But I think this is going to be a really interesting test because one thing we've seen is, like, judges are standing up. Like, Trump appointed judges are saying, get your ass in here.
I'll go back to what I said. I don't think it'll work.
Okay, good. Well, I mean,
so, like,
I'm not,
but that doesn't mean to me that they're not trying. This is not their plan. This is not their game. This is not, they're taking their best shot, their only shot. Like, they had one idea, and it was to create an insurgency, to trigger an insurgency that they could then try to put down. And it seems like that's what they've tried to do. I don't think it'll work.
Right.
But it feels very much like that's what they're doing. They got, they recruited the people that they could recruit to get to be willing to be brutal to regular people in Minneapolis. And they got enough of them to be on board with this brutality.
One thing, remember that so think back to the two guys that shot Preddy and they lawyered up. If Trump throws them under the bus, what message does that send to the brutality core, like the Proud Boys that are in,
it literally just says, don't kill people when there's 70 people filming you. That's all it says.
Yeah, you go to your locker and you think, like, if I shoot someone, he will not back me up.
If I'm Bavino in that situation, and the orders I can imagine him getting are not like, hey, chill, guys. Like,
right.
These are Americans. That's not the message he's getting from this administration.
Right.
The message he's getting is, you fucked up, dude. Like, you let your guys kill somebody when there are 50 people with cell phones seeing exactly what happened. Like, if you're going to kill somebody, make sure they're brown
in the back of a van and just no one sees it.
Or like, make it look, like it has to be. It can't be something that the public's going to sympathize with. Whatever. Like, that's the kind of, like, orders that Bavino or whoever takes his place would get in that situation. Like, hey, don't accidentally kill some, upstanding citizen in front of like 50 cameras. Like, that was dumb.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's a setback to our like our strategy here, which is to cause an insurgency that we can crush. What you did was you turned some of our loyalists against us in this moment.
It's interesting to look at, historically, we've got a lot of historical record of how, fascists quickly came to power and sort of tested the rule of law. Yeah. One thing that happened in Germany that was like an absolute, event horizon for the brutality of the Third Reich was early on. Hitler became chancellor, and all the sort of business guys were like, let's just let him have the seat, and we'll whatever,
Yeah.
And it'll all work out, and it's going to be great. And then there's this woman, a young woman, who was passing out communist leaflets at a university on a campus, and she was arrested and tried publicly with the courtroom was packed, and she was found guilty, and she was hung.
Yeah.
And she was 18 years old, and everyone was like, holy shit. She was passing out pamphlets, and they just murdered a German citizen who was protesting. Like, they did that on purpose. They wanted to be like, if you protest what we're doing, you'll be hung. We'll just say you're an insurrectionist, you're a communist, infiltrator, and you're going to be hung. I was worried that the Preddy thing was going to be like that, where they're like, hey, and they tried to. They were like, if you show up with a gun, we'll kill you, you know?
Right.
And then a lot of that was an awkward kind of weird move, because the Second Amendment people were like, whoa. Like, I can carry a gun anywhere. And that's like, just was
But it would have been a different story. I think like, imagine if the cell phone footage was like much more unclear. You know, did he pull a gun? Did he actually unholster his own gun? Did he, you know, like if it was less clear, it could have.
Like the Renee Good footage was
their
kind of
narrative,
hard to see his leg, and then
their
her
narrative
car.
could have worked, right? Like there were. It just happened that it didn't, because it was really clear.
Like the George Floyd footage. I mean, he was kneeling on the guy's neck for 9 minutes.
That's
and everyone
exactly
was like,
why the George
Floyd
murder was a tipping point, because in every other, like Philando Castile, all these other, Sandra Bland, right? Like all these other people, you know, African Americans who were killed by the police, there wasn't that, you know, like there was always there was always the ability for some swath of Americans to say, well, what happened before the video? Like, what did he do? Like, why didn't he just comply? Whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
well, think back to Rodney King. Like, if that dude hadn't had like an old camcorder out the window,
so that's
we
why
would never have known, you know?
Yeah, and that's why George Floyd, it was like the lies became utterly impossible. Like, people did try a little bit, but it was like there were 9 minutes of footage of him being knelt on. Like, he wasn't, he was already subdued. So like there was no the lies were impossible, and that's what happened in this case. The lies were impossible. But I don't know, I guess we can drop this, but I kind of feel like again, I resist conspiracy thinking. I kind of just think like you know, but at the same time there's this kind of there's that old expression about like it's dangerous, or it's dangerous to be right too soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like people who were talking about Trump's fascist kind of tendencies 6 years ago, 7 years ago, who you know, were mocked and oh, you're hysterical, blah blah blah. And that's happened over and over again with this administration. You know, with the mass deportations, it's like, oh well, you know, we can take him seriously, but not literally. Well, yeah, it's literal. Like they're trying to get rid of 3,000 immigrants a day, right? Like, they have this quota. Like you have the idea that they're not serious and not trying hard to implement their program is, you know, you can't make that argument anymore. You know what I mean? Project 2025. Well, that's not real. Trump doesn't know anything about that. Doesn't matter what Trump knows, right? Like they're following the Project 2025 playbook, like very, very closely. They're doing all those things. And so the idea that these things were, oh, we shouldn't pay attention to that, and it's just talk, and like that's bullshit. You can't make that argument anymore.
Two things pop to mind, and we should move on, because it's sort of a dark, prickly issue, and we honestly don't know what's going to happen. And
I don't think that even assuming I'm right about this being something like their strategy, I can't see it working. So I will say that again.
One of the funniest things that I remember from the 2020, you know, that whole, you know that like clown car of characters like Rudy Giuliani and Sydney, whatever. So,
Four Seasons Landscaping is still such an epic thing to have happened.
And I love that he just went with it. He was like, okay, let's do it. And he just got up there. Anyway.
Those kinds of things just really make you feel like you're in the simulation.
Totally. With the little thing of hair dye coming down the face.
This can't be real life.
Yeah. And then, okay, so I remember a really famous moment I thought was just hilarious was when John Eastman, you know, he got busted by the FBI, was in his underwear. They took his phone. he was this architect of the false electors scam.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and everyone came to Trump and was like, "Hey, I really need a pardon, just because Biden's going to win." And supposedly John Eastman says to Trump, "I really need a pardon because I did so many illegal things." And Trump goes, "Why would I give you a pardon? Your plan didn't work." and I just remember thinking, like, that's so Donald Trump, and
that's so Donald Trump. That's why it's kind of surprising that he has so many loyalists, because he is loyal to nobody.
Because if you parse that statement, if Eastman's plan worked, he wouldn't need a pardon.
What was the guy,
it doesn't work, you know what I mean?
Press secretary who was brief? Anthony
Scaramucci, for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and now they use that phrase
two Scaramuccis.
He lasted 2 Scaramuccis or whatever. Yeah.
I don't think I agree with his politics, but I actually really like Anthony Scaramucci as a.
Like a lot of people who have left that orbit a little bit, like he's willing to tell the truth to some degree, like you know.
I mean,
like Rand Paul, right? Like there are these few people. Okay, one more thing. I'm just gonna say this. Like, of the people of this administration, like there's like the Stephen Millers who are just odious, just nothing redeemable about that guy, right?
Yeah.
But in a weird way, I have more respect in a dark kind of like fucked up way for him, because he just is who he is, than somebody like Rubio, who I just like Rubio. If this administration, when this administration finally kind of falls, is defeated, dies, whatever, like Rubio, he can't have a worse life. The worse his life is, the happier I will be after this.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean,
like he's the worst. Like, just like, how is it? What is it to be Marco fucking Rubio? Like, he's just such a little cretin.
Yeah, it's horrible.
He reminds me of that guy in the Lord of the Rings, like
Wormtongue. No,
Wormtongue.
Yeah.
He makes me think of Wormtongue.
He's like a,
but he thinks he's
Littlefinger
from Game of Thrones, but he's actually Wormtongue.
He's Wormtongue, but he also, if you look at him, he does look soulless and depressed. Like he looks like he goes into the mirror in the hotel bathroom, and he's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Have you seen clips of him in these latest hearings about like Venezuela and stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like, God. And it's just like, he's good at making an argument. Like rhetorically, he's talented.
Yeah.
Which it makes me hate him even more, because he's just like, his arguments are so fucking fallacious and specious. And I just want to punch that guy.
It's funny because pre-Trump, like let's say 11 years ago, two people that I actually, in terms of foreign affairs, Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, I thought they were sharp. Kind of like Rick Bolton.
I think that's a good pair. Like, I think they have a lot in common, Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio. And the thing that they have in common most of all is they have this like neoconservative like hawkishness.
Yeah, but they used to, like, I used to be like, I don't agree with their politics, but when it comes to Iran or it comes to this or that, like defending the country, defending Ukraine against Russia, like they were like super pro-American, And now they're just, they both fell so far. I mean, Ted Cruz was one of them, but they just both fell so far, and they're just running around kissing Trump's ass in such a pathetic way.
Yeah.
That I just think back and like, wow, I mean, I don't understand how they look in the mirror. I just don't. Honestly.
Yeah.
Do they go in and just say like, it's okay?
Just the lies that pour out of Rubio's mouth about like American citizens, and going back to even the early part of the administration when they were like, they were going after college students for making comments about Israel and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And
he was going to take away that guy's
and just the things he said
card.
about them at that time, just like the brazen lying that he's willing to do. It's just like, it's one thing. Yeah, I don't know. There's something like Stephen Miller just seems like such a black soul through and through.
From the beginning, like his family will say in high school he started like, the anti-immigrant party.
And so if he's a black soul, like what is Marco Rubio? He's just like the sewer rat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like in some ways, if you were to use the Lord of the Rings analogy, he's like a dark rider, like a ring wraith, where he reached a level of, respect, and he's talented as a political animal,
Yeah.
but he just fell so far. So he's like a fallen political animal.
He was little Marco,
Yeah.
and getting mocked for his penis size by Trump, and now he's just like so far up Trump's. It's just weird.
Yeah, I've heard
just so
that
weird.
he thinks he can beat Vance out for a 2028 presidential run.
Fucking idiot.
And
He's dumb.
he has no charisma. Like
No charisma. Neither of them have any charisma. They both have some rhetorical skills, but like, there's something about Marco that is just so profoundly weak on the surface, just of his whole persona.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he was always little Marco, and there's just this whole thing about like, just his inability to hold to a principle at all and all that, right? Like, I just, when you look at his past presidential campaigns, the reasons why he lost are all still true, and then some.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know, the ego and the arrogance on these guys is nuts. Like I don't doubt that he thinks he could beat out Vance. It's laughable though.
Yeah.
And Vance has no charisma either. So the idea that,
I remember when Trump picked Vance, and Trump was polling like 49.5 or 51. There was like plenty. He had plenty of popularity right before the election, and Vance out of the gate was like 39%. Like no one liked him, and it was like, why did you pick that dude?
I think like he proved himself to the people who, within the MAGA circle, he proved himself
the
to
Peter
some
Thiels
extent.
and the Elon Musks.
And like his debate against Tim Walz and all that. Like he did well.
Yeah, he did well.
And I think like he corrected that part of his negatives, I think. But he has so many others. I don't know. His biggest challenge is that he has to. Right now, he had the Silicon Valley kind of power behind him, right? But what he didn't have was sort of the ethno-nationalist Stephen Miller side on, supporting him, and he's pandering really hard to them the last few months, right? Like, and what's interesting is the more he panders to them, the more he loses like the normal Americans.
Yeah.
So, he's making this weird calculation, like he needs the ethno-nationalists and the Silicon Valley, and it's going to come at the cost of all normal Americans, the more of this stuff he says, but we'll see.
I went back to sort of follow up. I went back because, I love history and the framework. So I went back to understand what the conditions were during the Kent State massacre, and how that happened, right? Like how did National Guard troops show up with guns at a college campus and kill unarmed students?
Yeah.
So what I found was that Nixon had run on, I'm going to shut Vietnam down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Nixon gave a speech during the week. Kent State was, I think, on a Saturday. And he gave a speech during the week that said, actually, we're going to invade Cambodia, and I'm going to expand the war in the north, and I'm going to like double the number of troops or something. And everyone freaked out and started protesting. So that weekend, a bunch of students went to the campus and started protesting. And the governor of Ohio, who I don't remember his name, but he said, he inflamed the rhetoric and said, these are not students, they're communist infiltrators.
Right.
And I will not allow them to infect our campus. So he started like making it seem like they were like spies from Russia, who had come to the campus.
Right, and so like that dehumanizing kind of language works because it had been part of the rhetoric for a while, just like with immigrants, like.
Wasn't that far away from the McCarthy era with the pinko commies. Like he made it seem like, these aren't
there was a lot of Americans that are primed to just like respond to that language already because it had been hammered for 10 years.
And he made it sound like before they shot the students, these aren't students I'm shooting. These are Russian infiltrators. These poisonous people that are ruining our children's minds.
Right.
Giving them drugs and teaching them how to dance and shit. And so that's how he did it. And because it blew my mind that like in Ohio, like how could at a college campus in Ohio, like white people would just show up and fucking shoot. And National Guards people are Ohio State. They're like neighbors of the
It's
city.
interesting that you were looking at that because I was also looking back at that. And the thing I was focused on was not like how it happened, but kind of just like what was the sort of response following it? Like, was there an outcry? Was it a tipping point? And one of the things I came away with, it was to some extent, obviously, but there's always, I guess one of my takeaways is there's always sort of like a third of Americans that are like, yeah, go kill those people. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be true always. I remember a poll some years ago. This is back when Twitter existed, and somebody there was a poll that came out that was they polled people just like it was around Martin Luther King's birthday, right? And there was some poll that was a recent poll around that time, maybe 10 years ago or whatever. And the question was basically like, did Martin Luther King sort of like cause his own death? Was he kind of too uppity, basically? I can't remember the language of the question, but it was kind of like, does he bear some responsibility for his murder? Because, like about a third of Americans who responded to the poll were like, yeah, like it was sort of his fault, right? And there was a journalist that took that poll, and then he put it alongside like 25 other polling questions that had been done over the years that were similar, and it was like across all topics. It was kind of like, is COVID a hoax, right? Or whatever, you know what I mean? It wasn't COVID time, but it was like, you could imagine a question like that being part of the mix, right? And in almost every case, it was about a third. It was about like 28 to like 35% of Americans were sort of, I'm going to just say, on the wrong side of the poll. And this journalist sort of like, the thesis of this article was kind of like 1/3 of people are always the problem. Like they're always on the wrong side.
It's been interesting.
No matter what the issue is. And it was like, he just had this massive, sort of totally diverse range of questions on every topic. And it was like, there's always going to be 1/3 of Americans who are on the wrong side of every issue, of any issue.
I remember there was one poll, and I've seen a poll about invading Greenland with military force, and I've seen two numbers. I've seen 3% of Americans approve of that, and I've seen 8%. And I think the question was asked slightly differently, like, do you approve of invading Greenland, or do you approve taking it by force, whatever? And at the one that's 3%, I like to point to the fact that 3% of the general population are either sociopaths or psychopaths.
Yeah. Or
So,
just
like,
complete idiots.
Well, right, but you could, if 3% are sociopaths and psychopaths and they can't have any empathy, they just can't. They just would think like, that's a great idea, huh?
Yeah,
What a great
yeah,
idea. But like 3% of they're almost like the margin of error. Like just don't include them because they're always going to vote for death.
Right.
And murder.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
They're
They're margin of error. Yeah.
They're
so
just
whether it's
whacked right
30% or 3%, but definitely 3% at least. Yeah.
I used to say after Trump won the first one, I think that 20% of the 20% of the Republican Party, I used to think that they were like pro-Confederacy. Like if they would be like, we would love to have slavery back and be, the South. Like I just thought like 20% of them like sort of yearned for Make America Great. To them meant put us back in charge, white people rock, where, I did want to bring up this one thing on the way to work. I was driving my wife to work today, and I said to her, what was a really strange, because the FBI raided the Fulton County recorder's office this morning, dawn. And you know who was there? Mark Warner said Tulsi Gabbard was there. And
As part of the raid?
Yeah, and Mark Warner was like, well, she's the
NSA or whatever.
or
Yeah.
DNI. She's like the
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Director. Yeah.
national intelligence. And he's like, the only reason that the director of national intelligence would go to an FBI raid is if there was like foreign intervention in something. Like,
Well,
why
they're
would
muddling all these agency mandates because I just heard that ICE was going to be sent to Italy for the Winter
Yes.
Olympics as security, and it's like, what? Like that just they're like, okay, you're fully going with the idea that they're a paramilitary
they're
now.
brown shirts? Yeah, they're like his.
Yeah, like
That's brown
they're an immigration enforcement agency, and you're going to send them over like for what? For security? That they're not like a security detail. But yeah, that's what I mean. They're like, so I don't think the actual sort of jurisdictions and mandates of these agencies like means anything anymore.
So we were talking about how, like, the FBI director is appointed for usually under normal circumstances a 10-year period.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's a non-political position and you're meant to be focusing on defending the country, and that presidents come and go, but you are there for 10 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, what happened to Christopher Wray? And Julie goes, my wife said, well, he resigned.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's, first of all, kind of bizarre. Like, I guess he just didn't like the job anymore. I mean, Trump appointed him, so.
No, but Trump was attacking him relentlessly.
Right,
and,
but he
yeah.
And Trump can fire the director of, I think, yes, he can. He fired Comey, right? Anyway, what's interesting was, do you remember right before the 2020 election, Christopher Wray did something very weird. He got on TV and gave this very short press conference where he just said, the most dangerous thing we've determined for America is not foreign interventionists or foreign, terrorists attacking us. It's right-wing white nationalist groups. And then he just shut up and got off, and that was it. And we were like, what the fuck are we supposed to do with that? Like,
Yeah.
it was the weirdest thing because he sort of did it in this alarming way, like, watch out for the white nationalists down the street. They're going to burn your house. Like, it just was, and then nothing happened.
Wasn't it? It was in response to, I think, like, Trump and those guys trying to shut down that whole part of the FBI. Like,
I think it was I feel like it came, do you remember when Chris Krebs, Trump was pissed at him because he said this was actually the cleanest, had less, we were able to
election,
protect the election, and there was less fraud and less sort of, meddling from foreign governments than any election prior. And Trump hated that and fired Chris Krebs and was like, liar, And then I feel like Christopher Wray got on and said that, and I was like, what weird. It just was odd timing, and it was like, it didn't mean anything, and it was like, why scare the Americans if you don't have like a plan to deal with it? And it was strange. But that was before January 6th, and I wondered, if they were like watching the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and thinking like, ooh, they're going to try to overthrow.
Maybe, yeah.
It was strange.
So this Fulton County thing, I mean, see, not to go back to the beginning, my conspiracy stuff, but again, it's sort of like, it feels to me like they are really trying to figure out how they can cancel or tilt or rig elections or whatever. They have this insurgency sort of like Insurrection Act plan idea that could be one path. Maybe there's something they're putting out, some sort of, they're trying something in that other side, like who knows what they're even doing, but it's fucking shady as hell.
There's two.
So like, I don't know. I can't see it working, but like, I it's hard to imagine they wouldn't try because they can't lose elections.
Okay. But so there's two, to clarify. One thing I read this morning was in October, 2025, the Justice Department, sued the Fulton County Recorder's Office in a civil suit, demanding like all of the paper documents and shit, paper ballots. And it's been going through the courts, and the Fulton County, a defense attorney for the Fulton County Recorder's Office said, he asked the judge, can you throw out the case because there's like, it's moot because we're not required by Georgia law to keep the documents past 2022. So we could just burn them, and then it's like, we've met our requirements. And there were other reasons. And so someone said, it seems like they know they're going to lose the civil suit. So they wanted to try to open a criminal investigation. But the dumb thing is, well, we know that 62 court cases threw out Trump's claim, right?
Yeah.
Someone asked Trump in a press conference, like in the last 2 days, now that you have Maduro and you control Venezuela, are you going to find out how Maduro used software to overthrow the election? And Trump goes, yeah, we're working on it. And I was like, oh my God, like clown car central.
Well,
like,
so he's an idiot for sure.
Yeah.
But like, he's not surrounded by idiots. There are some, like Pam Bondi's an idiot.
Yeah.
There are a few. Pete Hegseth is an idiot. But
I think Kristi Noem is a pure narcissist. Like she cares more about selfies and
for sure.
sleeping with Corey Lewandowski than anything else.
But they do want power.
Yeah.
Right? Like they want to hold on to power. Like that seems unquestionable. And so whether they're good at it or smart about doing it is one thing. But like it seems like they're gonna try shit.
Yeah.
They're gonna try all the shit they can think of trying. And a lot of it's gonna be kind of dumb. But they're gonna try. Like the voter rolls thing, they're trying to do that in Minnesota too. They were trying to do that as part of some other court case related to, and that was unrelated. And it was lawyers for the state were like, like how much do we're not gonna. It was had to do with the investigations into the shootings of Good and Preddy.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they were asking for like voter rolls or something.
Yeah.
And,
no, Pam Bondi said, I'll make things, I'll smooth things out, and we'll like leave, and there won't be any chaos if you give me all the voter rolls.
Right. So like, why would they want all that? Right. So they're doing something.
Did you hear the judge say?
Yeah.
That's the Wikipedia definition of quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Like you just look it up, and that's what it is. Like, I'll stop beating you up if you give me shit what I want.
Totally. But like, so some of these things are happening and they're being pushed back on, right? Like, but they're trying something that's fucking shady. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Who knows exactly what it is and what their plan is? And it's like, if they get those names, I don't even know what they're planning to do. Like cancel people's voter registration or whatever, right? Like, who knows what they're trying? But they're gonna try stuff.
Do you remember when you said, hey, like Elon Musk, like why be a fucking asshole? You won. Mm-hmm. Like you won, you're the richest man in the world, whatever. Like if you think about like kleptocracy, like Putin being like maybe the richest person in the planet or something, and he has all these oligarchs, and he gives them like an aluminum smelter, but then half of the money is his, whatever. I don't know how it works, but so like you set up this kleptocracy. I mean, Trump's got it. He's like riding the gravy train. Like, I mean, he's got billions of dollars secretly squirreled away. He can take whatever he wants. He can say,
well, I don't think he's not a deep thinker about any of this. He's not even ideological. Right. He's like Archie Bunker, right? Like he's Archie Bunker that managed to get into the White House. Yep. And some weird combination of Archie Bunker and Chauncey Gardner, right? And he managed to get there, but he's old guy. Like he's going to die. And there's a lot of people who must recognize that, like, all right, this guy has an expiration date. Like, how do we make something durable here,
right?
That the rest of us can benefit from and hold on to? Like, that's what they need to do. They know they need to do that.
Yeah.
They need to create something that outlasts Trump, that is their movement. And I really don't see it working.
Yeah.
But why? I mean, of course they're trying.
What's interesting is
that's the desire, if not the plan.
What's really sad and also kind of fascinating is Trump came to power a second time, mainly because. By the way, I have to go back and say not yesterday, but the night before, my wife went on this rant. She has two things that she really doesn't like about America, and she's a naturalized citizen, right? So ever since she came here 12 years ago, 14 years ago, she's hated that there's gerrymandering. Like in Colombia, take the state of Arizona. Let's say there's 7 Congress people who represent Arizona, and they each have a district, and you can get elected. You can gerrymander the fuck out of those districts and then elect who you want. Or at least make it easier to get elected. So in Colombia, there's the population of Arizona is represented by 7 congressional seats, and they all have to run statewide. So it's like ranked choice, and the first 7 people win, and then everyone in the state, because right, it's an interesting thing. Tucson, we run our city council, we have several districts, and then the entire city votes for the city council people for every district. And the point is that like they're going to make decisions that affect all of us. So you want like everyone to weigh in on who's going to be their city council people. Anyway, that's an interesting. So then she just went on this thing tirade where she just goes, you know who I'm so pissed at is Mitch McConnell. She's like, Mitch McConnell is the source of so much of our pain.
He's absolutely much. Yeah, he's a snake. Yeah,
fucking snake, and he just is such an asshole. And he's made several like key moves that allowed for us to be
especially
in this
about
moment.
campaign finance stuff. Yeah,
and then the judges like
that was like the whole beginning of his career was all that campaign. There was like a campaign finance bill.
Yep, and then his big thing right now. I mean his thing was when Trump tried to overrun the Capitol with his goons, he said, "No, I'm not going to vote to convict him. Let's let it play out in court." And it was like, you're such an asshole, man.
Yeah,
like, what?
And then even later he was asked, like, would you vote for Trump again?
And
even
he said,
though
yes,
he said, if he was the Republican, I would, or something
I
like
know.
that.
It's such a dick. And,
Yeah,
so did
no,
Bill
that
Barr
guy's
said the same thing, and
that guy is Darth Vader for sure.
It's so bizarre to me that
all
so
these
many
people.
Republicans would vote for him. We ended up filling a whole hour with politics.
That was politics. Yeah,
I think we are at a sort of a very intensely. I'll certainly say I've been doom scrolling more than I have this week, and just been generally sad, and a little nervous. I live in Pima County. We had someone was shot about 20 minutes south here by a Border Patrol person yesterday.
Yeah. No, I think
details,
about when I see what's happening in Minneapolis, and I think about your wife and my wife, and if what was happening in Minneapolis was happening in the Bay Area, like my wife would be scared to leave the house to drive to work. And if it was happening in Tucson, your wife would be scared to leave the house and drive to work, right? Like they are racial profiling people in their cars, and they're following people on their way to and from school and work, and they're ripping people out of their cars, show me your papers, if you refuse, they just throw you into one of their cars and detain you until they figure out who you are and shit like that. Like there's hundreds of stories at this point of citizens and legal residents being detained because they essentially have permission from the Supreme Court to do that.
Yeah.
And so, it sickens me to think that if they had chosen the Bay Area instead of Minneapolis, that my wife would be scared to leave the house.
That's so true and so sad.
And same with if they had chosen Tucson instead of Minneapolis, your wife would be justifiably scared to leave the house. And
it broke my heart.
What a horrible, heartbreaking thing.
The other day, it broke my heart because she has a lot of these beautiful hand woven by Colombian indigenous tribes, these bags that are called mochilas. And they're just people see them in New York and they know immediately you're Colombian. Like they're just come up and they're like, oh, hola parcero. Like this, it's a sign that you're Colombian. Like if you have this bag. And she had the bag on and she said, I don't think I should wear this bag anymore. Like, out on the street. And I was like, oh, that. And she's also been asking me to help her fix her accent because she wants to sound American. And that breaks my heart too, because I'm like, I love your accent. I just and the American accent sounds so ugly. And come on.
But I get it because that's what the agents are saying. Like why did you detain me? Well, because of your accent, right? Like your skin color and accent and those things. And it's just like, I think of my wife's whole family. Like they're citizens, but they have accents, right? They're from the Philippines and they're browner skin, and then it would be. They would be fearing for their safety if Minneapolis, if I focused on the Bay Area instead of that. It's really heartbreaking.
All right, so we're exactly at an hour. What can we say to pick up the
First world problem? I don't
you
know.
know, do first world problems?
Yeah, we didn't. I guess we had to go there sometimes.
Yeah,
But
no, I think it's an important to at least
my first world problem is on the iPhone when you're like you have the little back when you're drilling down into something and you have the little back arrow at the top left, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
need to go back to the previous screen. When you get a notification at the moment that you're trying to go back, and so you end up going to like.
It pops under your finger as you.
You go to your suddenly somebody texts you, or you go to your calendar at that moment. It's like, so that's, I find that annoying. Like it shouldn't cover that button
Yeah, no,
in
that's.
that moment.
I think if Johnny Ive were still in charge of the interface, and you pointed that out, he'd be like, "That is really awkward," and like
Johnny Ive didn't care about the interface, the
only
usability of the interface. As long as things had the right bezel on the corners and bezel. And if he, like if it looked simple and slick, he didn't care about usability.
Do you remember when Johnny Ives he was assigned to take over the GUI, like the GUI, and he decided to get rid of the Apple font? It went to like Helvetica. Like what the fuck was that? It was the weirdest
that was
choice.
Weird. Like it would have made sense to me if he was like, we're gonna design a new Apple font, right?
Yeah.
Like that would make sense.
Yeah.
Even if it looked almost exactly like Helvetica in the end, you'd just be like, it would at least but just to be like, we're going to go with Helvetica. That's such a weird move. Yeah.
I think I've told you this. I designed an app back in like for the iPhone 3 or something.
Yeah.
And I designed the whole interface and I custom made all these like buttons and this whole thing. And then this kid who was working at the developers, like the studio where we were having it built, he said, "Have you read the Apple? The Apple's done a lot of research on human interaction with devices, and you should read these 3 white papers." Yeah. And I read them, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
They had like their whole design guidelines. They had a really nice.
I went back and followed the guidelines because I was like, "This is so smart!" Like they've created these non-language based, like to share something. It's this box with an up arrow and back and forward, and then Johnny Ive came along and replaced a lot of those icons with words, and I was like, "That's so fucking dumb!" Like,
I remember
now you have to translate it, and it's like back in Russian is fuck that.
Takes up space.
Takes up space, and it just was such a weird choice,
Yeah, there was some.
He's working for Ferrari now. He got hired by Ferrari.
I always wonder when I see those like really high end cars around here, like, do they have a is a weird, very weird specific question, but I wonder if they have like a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
Like, cause I wonder. I just have this weird like. It seems like if you built a Ferrari, you wouldn't add like CarPlay into it. You know what I mean?
No, it would just be sad and ugly.
That seems weird, right? But it also seems like how good could their software people be that they would develop like a good in-house onboard native system? Like it probably would suck if you're if you're Ferrari, you don't really have a software team, right?
Right.
I don't know. So I don't know. I just have this really weird question about like, I wonder if they have like an onboard, like just a screen for like your music and shit. I don't know. Your map.
Yep. My first world problem is basically I'm embarrassed that how I complained about that nasty the iOS 26 update, and you sent me the video of that hilarious liquid glass. Yeah. I'm embarrassed by the fact that it doesn't piss me off as much as it did. Like I still hate it.
I think it's different on your device than mine too. Like I have a 14 Pro.
I have a 15.
Okay. I feel like
Pro Max. I have a 15 Pro Max.
Because when I see screenshots of what liquid glass looks like, it doesn't quite look like that on my device. Like it seems like a slightly simpler. I don't know.
I guess I mean,
some of it is there and some of it isn't, from what I've seen on the videos.
I guess I'm my first world problem is just simply that. Mm-hmm. If there was a button that said like fuck that, let's go back. I don't like the liquid glass, or just turn off liquid glass completely. Like if you could just do that, I would do it, right? But since there wasn't that option and they have us by the throat, I feel like I backed down too quickly. Like I just was like, oh well, I guess I'll just get used to it,
The reason why I mentioned it might be different on my phone because I kind of feel the same way. Like I don't mind it, My biggest complaint about it is how much space it takes up on my storage. Like,
Oh, the OS, like the actual
yeah, it's
iOS.
super irritating that like I have 128 gigs of storage on my phone, and it takes up like 22.
Wow, that's fat.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fat.
like the
programming.
OS takes up like, yeah. So that drives me a little nuts. Like, don't tell me I have 128 gigs of storage if you're going to use like a fifth of it.
Yeah, that's brutal. That is brutal. Actually, ouch. And I think partly why they let the developers program so fat is that they want the older phones to not be, to not work with this fat software.
Of course, yeah.
So then you have to buy
it's
a new
that whole
phone
other
and
first
everything.
world problem that I've had, which is like this idea of like bricking your fucking nice device because of some OS upgrade, whatever, that doesn't support it anymore. Like my wife can't even use a browser on her MacBook Air.
I can't believe
Like even
that.
the browsers are like, yeah, we can't install the latest version on here. I'm trying to find just like an old simple browser because just to do shit on the web, she can't even
Right.
do.
Like a-
Safari doesn't work. Firefox doesn't work. Chrome doesn't work.
Firefox doesn't work. Wow. What about
None of them-
Opera? Opera?
None of them will let her
DuckDuckGo?
install the latest version of their browser on her MacBook Air, and it's a perfectly good MacBook Air. It just runs the old. It just has the old chip, so it can't. So it doesn't have the latest OS, which means
What's
it can't.
the maximum OS you can run on that thing?
High Sierra, I think.
High Sierra, huh?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it irritates me to no end because I'm like, like we are a family of means, but like if I were just like some senior on a single income and I inherited my computer from like my son or something, like my mom, like I gave her a computer, one of my old ones, it probably doesn't work either, like I don't know how old it is, but she's 82. She shouldn't need to buy a new computer just to do shit in a browser. Right? So
Yeah.
that's my first world problem part 2.
Nice. Well,
All right.
well, awesome to talk to you. Satellite Haiku.
All right, my
All right.
friend.
Stay safe out there, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye. See
Okay,
ya.
bye-bye.
Satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.